we have a lot to go over of what's coming up. Unfortunately, we had a weekend when there wasn't a ton of stuff happening, but we're going to start with John, who actually did see a live fight. John, run with that, please.
Oh, it was fun. You know, I was telling you, Frank, it's right by the LA Coliseum, Charles, and I've seen, I watched O.J. Simpson running with the wind in the 1960s at the LA Coliseum. That's how old I am. So I think nostalgically when I see that, I think an Evel Knievel going down the ramp, you know, at the LA Coliseum in the 60s. It's all the old stuff. You know, the quarterbacks and oh my God, and the red, it's all that. So it's all on the campus of USC.
So I got Roman Gabriel.
Right, exactly. Roman Gabriel and Big Bass and Jack Snow and Deacon Jones and all these names that, you know, they start.
What about Pat Hayden?
Pat Hayden was there. That's right. He played there. That's right. USC. So yeah, I mean that's the kind of stuff. Exactly. I mean, I was happier about that than going to the fights. I think that's
yeah.
But I walked past there and I took a great picture. I seemed to be grinning on that. But when I got in there, nice, like a soccer arena. So they had the ring like in the corner, and then the soccer arena's to your left. And it's like a lot of room. It was really hot, so I stayed out in the shade. And to my right, I told Frank this. I was texting Frank a little bit. I go to my right. I go, oh, to my right, there's Bernard Hopkins. He's about 10 feet away from talking to somebody, and then a few minutes later, here comes Miguel Cotto walking by, you know, and he was doing a broadcast. I guess he's getting into the broadcasting. But the fights were good. Because I drove all day, I missed some of them, but the main ones, Estrada and Tuzami, the ladies went at it, the flyweights, and that was a great 10-rounder. And then Jojo Diaz against Fortuna, the fight we were talking about last week. That was a real good fight. I had a jaw dropper as far as the scoring. You know, we talk about scoring a lot. If you guys saw the fight, I was sitting there thinking, Jojo's losing. I mean, he's bleeding from a cut, and he's got the crowd in his supporting him. But Fortuna, a little bumblebee, you know, he's a clever dude, you know, and he's hitting Jojo with some hard shots, and Jojo rallied. But I thought, thinking split decision, maybe Diaz. I even thought it was possible that Fortuna might get the decision. I did. And then when they announced the scores, I went.
Right.
And I looked over at some guys over to me, and they went, whoa. So all of us in the media section, we all thought it was much. I had JoJo winning by 1 point. Mm. So I don't know what, 117 to 110. I don't know what, you know, whatever. We've discussed this 100 times. It's hard to watch and score fights when you're there because you got the crowd, you got distractions. It's pretty easy because the way they had it set it up, you know, like the ring behind me, and a big television video screen right above the ring, so you can just kind of go like this and see whatever. You really can't miss anything. But those judges were only 10 feet away from me. I don't know what they were watching. But that was good. And then Zurdo Ramirez and Sullivan Barrera, that was a number of friends of mine thought Barrera had a chance. And I thought, you know, he's 39, but he was pretty live. But you could see Ramirez just too strong, too young. And then when he hit him with that wicked body shot, it was right out of a movie, guys, you know, where he just kind of ripped, bam, hit him right in the ribs. And then it delayed reaction. He just kind of stepped away, Barrera I'm speaking of, and then went down. So that was it. Zurdo is a really strong guy, so he wants to fight all the big guys. So that was interesting. He wants to fight Bivol. He wants to fight Biev. He wants to fight Joe Smith. So the light heavyweights are a real good division right now. It was fun, though. You know, there's nothing like, you know, Charles. You guys, I'm sure you know Frank, too. It's great to go to the fights. But as I was saying to Frank, I'll say this. I think I'm getting too old for this. I was the old man of the group, you know, and I'm like, oh, graybeard. This you just sit on your duff with your computer and watch it, you know, with all these young guys. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. But you know, again, there's nothing like going to any kind of live sporting event. It's always more fun.
Well, Charles, now and John, we'll steal the thunder here. I'm going to ask this question because I think it begs being looked at. Been someone like, you know, that just watches these things on their computer or watches old fights on TV. What is the difference, right or wrong, good or bad, what do you feel? Is there a visceral difference between watching a fight live at the venue and whether you're in the cheap seats or whether you're in press row, as opposed to watching it in your own comfort on your own couch?
Well, I mean, of course, the advantages are you don't have to rush back. You have all the comforts of home. You can get your snacks. You can take restroom breaks and whatever like that too. And you're on your own timetable. So you can wait to the last minute. You can skip the preliminaries and you can wait to the last minute. But if you've been to any type of real sporting event that is really top notch, and I've been to a few of them, like I said, I've watched a Mayweather fight at least 9 times in person. So I saw De La Hoya Mayweather. I saw some other things too, Sugar Shane Mosley Mayweather. And it's just the point of it is that the atmosphere is so electric. And you don't realize it at the time, but you think you're in this room, secluded area, this arena, with only a certain amount of people. There are a number of people that wish, especially with the bigger fights, wish they could have gotten inside the venue. And when you think about it, when they say that thing, and for the millions watching around the world,
Right.
they're watching you and you're in the building watching this live. It's like you will never, ever forget it. You try to pay attention to everything, but you get to see the standpoints from the costumes with the Mayweathers coming out in the Hispanic Mexican colors with the with the Mexican assassin.
Ariashi Band and all
the
that.
whole
Yeah.
nine, and then wearing all of the things, and then the music. Everything is so spectacular. It's a show. They put it out for you if it's Canelo coming out, whatever. It is a show. And with that being said, the vibe, the feeling, the reaction of the crowd when something happens, it is just electrifying. And the thing is, it's so quick. You think it's long when you're watching it at home, but things go so fast and it's all happening. So just the electricity alone for a large fight, and you're in there with these secluded people, you're secluded with these certain people and you're in a place that you will never, ever forget where you're at in the fight. And then you also get a chance to go back home later and watch the replay and kind of see what you thought you missed. You're like, oh yeah, I remember that, blah, blah, blah. But to be inside is second to none. That is, to me, the whole point of it is you can always say other little things, whatever, but the electricity, the atmosphere is so dynamic that if you've never been in it, I guarantee you try it for a real large fight one time, you'll be hooked because it's so dynamic. You're like, oh man, I'm in here. Then you see John mentioned about Bernard Hopkins. You might see De La Hoya. You might see some other famous people.
He was there too.
Right. And you think about it, you're in the mix, in the same environment, same breathing the same air as these so-called famous people. And you're like, oh, did you see Magic Johnson? Just all of those things. It's an event. That's what Floyd Mayweather said all the time. Whether you like me or not, I don't give a damn. I'm going to entertain you. So you want me to lose? You want me to win? Just show up. And they do. They showed up. And he said, I'm going to entertain you. So when Floyd came out, it was a party. Even if you weren't a party goer, it didn't matter. The atmosphere, people coming from California that knew they weren't going to the fight. They just hanging out because they wouldn't even stand on the strip. They were standing in the hotels miles away, but because they couldn't afford to be on the strip. But when you come to the strip, it is intoxicating. It is a party. It is happening. It's a movement. The city's live. Everybody knows it. Even the hotels want to be a part of it. It is second to none. It's like Christmas every day.
Well, I have 2 examples that illustrate that. They're not boxing examples, but what you're talking about. One was when there was wrestling, before it became WWE, when the wrestling would come, Sunday, we're coming to the Armory, that kind of thing. And it was the Junkyard Dog came to Mansfield, Ohio, where I'm from, and they're at the Armory. I didn't even know Mansfield had an armory. And I found out the Armory was about 2 miles away from my house. Like, okay, why? It's on TV. It's on TBS with Tony Schiavone. I don't need to see this. But my friend talked me into seeing it. It was fantastic because, like Charles said, you're right there inside of the thing.
Mhm.
You are part of what the millions on TV are watching, but it's right there. And then the other one that Charles is responsible for, we went, and we're going to date ourselves by saying this, we went to the Cool Jazz Festival in Cincinnati. Riverfront Stadium. Riverfront Stadium probably tore down for 20 years as well. But it was James Brown, and we had out, we could call them backstage or side stage patches, whatever it was, we were right there in the mix. And until you've seen something from that venue, from that part, you go, well, and I thought it looked good on TV, but you saw the inner workings of what was going on, all the people involved in putting things together, everything that has to happen, and you get a greater appreciation for the event. So I agree with what you're both saying. It's like, now there is, Jonathan off air, you also got to get there, you also got to park, you got to travel, you got to do this.
That's the other part.
You got to wait for it. Yeah, so there's the downside to it. When you're watching at home, you turn the channel on and you're watching an episode of Seinfeld, so whatever. But it's still a part of, if you're going to make a day of it, if you're going to make an event, that's the thing. So this is our Welcome Back to the World After the Pandemic show. This is kind of the
real fast, Frank. Real fast. Charles is right. I've been to fights in LA, San Francisco area, Oakland, and Vegas. If you want to go to a live big fight, you go to Vegas. Mm-hmm. Those are the best organized, the best crowds. It is exactly how we said. You can feel the electricity. Before Mayweather came out, I was there his last fight against Andre Berto. Everybody figured he's going to destroy Andre Berto, beat him easy, whatever. The point is before he came out, the electricity was just buzzing around everybody. You can literally touch it. And then the same thing, even Friday night, I noticed when they enter, you watch it on television when they're entering the ring and they're with their entourage, you're like, I'm going to go get something to drink while they're getting their way in the ring. When you're there, it's really pretty exciting when they're walking in there and they get in the ring, and they go between the ropes and they go like this, there's a different vibe, a different feeling. And but when anybody watching out there, you want to go to see some live boxing, go to Las Vegas. That is the place. And
we'll continue on the Mayweather Fest here, the Love Fest, but I was here trying to actually work the Mayweather-McGregor, whatever you want to call it. And you want to talk about electricity. There were people walking literally crawling on top of each other to get to different things during that event, whether it be the sports book or whether it be to what was going on outside or whatever. It was like, people on top of people on top of people. It was insane. And if you enjoy the party or even can tolerate the party, I guess is a better way of putting it, it was insane. It was worth doing because that's what everyone was there for. And it wasn't just at the venue. It wasn't just at the hotel. It was up and down the strip, across the strip, away from the strip, down the highway. That's what everyone was there for. Like Charles said, it wasn't just the venue that was putting on the event. It was the city that was putting on the event.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, so anyone from the Las Vegas Area Chamber of Commerce that's watching this, please let us know. We'll say some more nice stuff about you later.
That's it. We're here.
All right, on to the show. Now, we're looking at some things that have happened that we didn't want to have happen, and we'll touch on them briefly. We touched on it a little bit at the end of last show, the COVID-related possibility of the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight being postponed, and that has happened. I really don't want to dwell on that. It just happened. That's what it is. It's the situation we're in now. But it allows us to see other things that maybe we're going to be overshadowed by the lead up to that. So this weekend, we have Jermell Charlo against Brian Castano. I always say that wrong because it's the simplest name to pronounce. But anyway, this is for the undisputed junior middleweight title. Undisputed junior middleweight title.
Yep.
We have Josh Taylor. Is anyone else that's undisputed right now? I don't think so. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so. So, Charles, when we're looking at this fight, what makes this a draw that we have to actually pay attention to? Because I don't think we were talking about it until the Fury Wilder fight got postponed, because that was overshadowed. So that was going to be next week. What do you think?
Well, I think part of it is people need to know about Brian Castano, right? You need to know that he's, as John mentioned earlier to us, that he's alive. He's live. He's, what we mean by that, he's a gamer. He's a guy that has a chance to win by punching and by the style that he uses. It's not going to be coming in as a guy that is a sacrificial lamb or going to be dominated. Now that might happen, but coming in, Jamel Charlo's looking at it from standpoint, I'm taking this guy seriously. Also, too, the factor that anybody that's a champion, you never know. They had to do something to get to that point. You know, you just don't hand people stuff like that.
Right.
It's a championship. So he has a title, and he's a tough guy. He's known for his style, and he can hurt people. He's in the hurt business, the type of guy that can hurt you. And with Jamel Charlo realizes that, so that's going to get his attention. And also he's going to have his antenna up because he's not going to come in slouching or not taking this guy seriously. Because if he, let's say, for instance, he was to take him for granted and lose, it kind of deters the plan he had, which is become undisputed and keep making more money and fighting better fights. So he's going to be up. But I think that's the factors you mentioned earlier, that collectively they are fighting for 4 belts, undisputed. 4 belts, which means whoever wins this fight is the king of the domain. So if it's whoever else is coming along at junior middleweight, we can name the names off, of course, at 154, but they are all going to be gunning for that champion at 154. So I think that's the significance of it. And anybody will tell you at 154, they would love to be in their shoes for this fight, because you control the domain, you control the money, right? Money's going to be coming your way too, because you're undisputed. That might mean you might get popped up, and if you're not in a pound for pound discussion, you're close. And then other venues and also other media outlets want to connect with you, because that's you're the target, you're the money. So it just opens the door for so many things when you're undisputed. Exactly what Jamel Charlo's looking for. And imagine if Brian Castano had upsets him and is at that level. Man, it's like a kid in a candy store, something you always dreamed about, something no one ever besides your corner and somebody else, maybe a third grade teacher, thought you could do. Seriously. And here you are. So it's a great opportunity for the winner. So I think that's one of the sticking points we need to make for people, because undisputed opens the door to do a lot of different things and creates a lot of opportunity.
Well, you bring up an interesting point, John. When Charles says upset, and we've talked about Charlo, both of them, for well over a year now, about they don't get the respect they deserve, or they don't get the shots they deserve, or whatever, they should get more of this, more recognition, more exposure, whatever. If Castano wins this fight, is it an upset?
It is, but I mean, think about the odds. I mean, he's going to Texas, where Jermel the Charlos are from. So he's basically fighting in his backyard. The disadvantages are huge. I mean, he's only like 5'7.5" or something like that, and Charlo is 5'11". The reach is all in Charlo's. He has the advantage in reach. I mean, you know me with movies. I'm thinking it was Apollo against Rocky. Stallone's not 5'7". Sorry, Sly, if you're watching out there, but you're not much taller than that. Probably 5'8.5", 5'9". But the reach and all that and the height. I mean, he's got all of it. So he just stick that jab out. So Castano's got to figure out how to get under those blows, and we know Charlo can punch. He's not a big puncher, but he can punch. So he's got all the odds against him, but he's also got that kind of unknown factor, though, because he's only had 17 fights. He's never lost. His last fight, when he won the title, he beat this tough dude up, Textero. I think I'm probably not pronouncing it right, but he beat him up for 12 rounds. He showed a lot of ability and really an ability to get down, because that guy was kind of tall like Charlo, too. So, yes, it would be an upset just because Charlo's lost. He did lose once, we know, to Harrison, but it would be an upset because Charlo is more known and he's favored for that. But, you know, we tend to do that sometimes. We make the favorite based on their last fights.
Right.
And Charlo looked good in his last fight. Now he fought Adams, I think it was, a contender guy, and he beat him, won pretty much every round. But it's going to be another one of these, Frank, where I give the edge to Charlo. But as long as he did what Charles said, as long as he took this fight seriously, because I've seen Castano fight, he's got skills. So that Castano is taking this fight seriously. He's risking his title to come to this guy's backyard and fight. He's probably making more money than he ever has. So I don't blame him. He's rolling it, and that's what you're supposed to do in boxing. He be primed? Yes. So it's got a lot of those intriguing factors that make people like us love boxing, because we think we know a lot, and then we realize that we don't know that much, because there's these unknown factors going on that we just, the next week we go, because something could happen. Somebody could get cut. Somebody might get knocked down early and change the whole fight. And we'll go, wow, we didn't see that coming. So we think we know, but we don't. But I still think that Charlo most likely will win this. But Sano, like we're saying, he's live. He's talented. He's coming to win. See if he can do it.
It reminds me, and not necessarily exactly like this, but it reminds me of the way we were looking at this just a few months ago, when we were looking at Burchell and Oscar Valdez. And went, well, I've never seen Valdez really do anything. I'm not sure what he's going to be, but he's won some fights. He won some more fights, and he hasn't lost any fights. Okay, well, he's a game competitor, I guess, and we're making stuff up as we go along because we really don't know, and no one else knows, so then whether we're telling the truth or not. When he comes in, you're like, oh, he's got game. Oh, wow. So I'm interested to see, as you said, you don't get a belt just because they hand it to you. Most of the time. Sometimes they do, but that's another story. But it's the idea of, for the undisputed belt, I'm trying to think back when you may get one belt because they give it to you, or because you got a gift decision. But then you've got to beat somebody else and beat somebody else, or beat two somebody else's, or someone who beats somebody in order to get all four belts. So it's not like you're lucking into this. So there's the thing there. But you mentioned something I thought was very interesting. Going into his backyard to get the fight. And as I consider myself the king of the segue, I don't have a segue for this one because I haven't figured it out yet. We just received word that on August 14th in Tulsa, Oklahoma, on ESPN Plus, ding, there's a ding for them, that the rematch, the trilogy rematch from the bubble, Joshua Franco and Andrew Maloney, is going to be held. Now, we said they have to have this fight in Australia because we said that Maloney got jobbed in the first fight. And Charles, if you would give people a little recap of the second fight, a recap of what happened in the second fight in the bubble, and then we can kind of make everything go from there.
Yeah, well, you had in the bubble, so it was the standpoint of you had the champion was making things happen, or he thought he had it coming in, and you have Maloney stepping up to the point of showing you everything that he was supposed to do to win, and because of the referees, I wouldn't call it interference, but his stepping into the fight and making a difference, saying that Franco was was it disabled or whatever, to the point of really stopping the fight because the head budget or whatever. And then them trying
got to be like
right. So them going to the point of having to go to him making the decision, and then they were able to go to the cards, and to the point of where the biggest issue was that they could have made a change because of the factor that it was up on the referees and whatnot outside the folks to make a decision. They could have turned it over to go, here's what we saw, because they were allowing for replay. But instead of doing that and doing what many people considered to doing making the right decision, they chose to leave it as it was. I think it was a no contest or something to that effect. So they made a decision to say that instead of really going back to the tape or even making a decision on the tape, because they had the power to overturn it. And then after too many minutes of deliberation on ESPN and letting other people see it over and over again, they decided it was to remain the way that it was.
Hours it felt like, yeah.
Right. So you clearly saw the one guy, Maloney, won the fight, right? Everybody would tell you won the fight. But because the decision was made to make it a no contest, then of course it's like, darn. So now it's like we need to have the third fight. And then of course, because of the way that Maloney was robbed of having an opportunity to win the title, people were thinking he was going to go to Australia. But instead it's in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it stays here in the States. And you got a guy that's born and raised in Texas, and then you got a guy from Australia. But I'm here to say, I'm just total speculation. I guarantee you, Maloney said, I don't give a damn where it is. You can have it in his backyard. I will come and I will fight him because I believe I can beat him now. I really believe that. He knows it. And it's going to be no matter where it is or what have you, what day you want to put it on, what time, I'm here. And I think that is why he said it doesn't matter. Just sign the paper. What date? I'm going to show you this time. And the last point I'll make on this is this time I think you'll have ESPN out the way. You'll have the referees, the powers that be, that the referee, whoever else is making decisions is going to be on point this time, because they don't want to have the backlash and the disaster that they have from the second matchup. I guarantee you, it's going to take a very significant action for them not to be on their P's and Q's and get this right this time, because they know everybody saw the first two times, especially the second fight, or was going to be watching.
There could be either no cameras or 157 cameras. I'm not sure which. Just to give a little background to it, the Maloney was the undefeated fighter going into the first fight, and it was for a lot of people foregone conclusion he would beat Franco, and Franco came out and quite frankly whipped his butt.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any way of going around that.
He did.
And Maloney's reaction to that in the bubble was, I let it get away. Mm-hmm. And he was visibly distraught after the fight, not blaming anything other than himself. But it's like, I didn't come to play. I didn't bring my A game. And he was visibly upset. So we go into the second fight. He's like, this crap ain't happening again. And the first half of the first round, maybe it was kind of feeling out. I don't know if I go that far, maybe the first quarter. And then Maloney just rolled over Franco, in my opinion. Just rolled over him. And then what happened was he just blew up his face, basically, is what it was. And the determination was that the stoppage was caused by an accidental headbutt. And they showed that replay, 3-4 dozen times at least. And the same replay that the judges were seeing, they showed us on TV. And as far as I can tell, they never definitively found the headbutt that would have caused that injury. Yet they stuck with the referee's determination, and they called it no contest. So here we are in this situation, and John, you tell the people what I think. Let's put it that way.
Well, it was like you said, it was a job. It was a massive robbery. I mean, I remember listening. Tim Bradley was going bonkers, and my man Andre Ward's usually calmer, but even he was saying, yeah, this is terrible. And Tessitore was going crazy too. And I was sitting there watching this, and I was talking to the television while I was watching. I thought, you're not going to steal this from this kid, are you? You're not. Right. And then the longer, it's just like in boxing most of the time, it takes a long time for the scoring to get tabulated. You're going, uh-oh, what's going on? So the longer it took, I was going, and I said to my girlfriend, I go, they're going to take it from this kid. I just know it. I can feel it in my bones. She goes, why? I go, because it's boxing. They don't want to embarrass the referee. Why not? I mean, if you get something wrong, why is that embarrassing? Referees get things wrong. We all get things wrong in life. So he thought he saw something. He didn't see it. It all happened so fast. They've done it before what was it that made this so important that they couldn't do it? That part I don't get, Frank. But with replay, when you get to see it over and over and over again, and they're watching it over and over and over again, it makes it harder to. Bob, they're there with Bob Aaron, who I seem to like to rip pretty much every week. There, he was having a conniption fit, and I completely agreed with him. I mean, I was like, I would too. I would be going there. He was saying, well, what are you looking at? And I still don't understand. They just said, no, we're going to stick with, and there was some reason given, some vague reason given, and I thought, well, what is this? Is there's a gun? Is somebody a hiding gun somewhere with the guy's at his head? I just, to this day, I don't get it, Frank. And then I felt like you, Maloney was crying in the ring after he lost that fight. I've rarely seen a fighter cry like that, a few times, but he was so upset at himself. He wasn't blaming anybody else, which was quite unique for nowadays. Right. So here it is. He's kicking the living you know what out of Joshua Franco. He's gonna stop him. He's gonna. I'm thinking. I remember watching a little bit in the second round. He's continuing what you said so accurately, doing what he did about a quarter of the way from the first round. I mean, he's gonna stop him this time. I mean, this is going to be definitive. There's going to be no doubt about it. And then boom. And then at first I thought, oh, well, that's easy. You know, you're watching the replay and you're going, that's no problem. They're going to get it right. And then, like I said, then it takes long. It took like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I just went, and to their credit, Bradley and Underwood and Tessitore, they were saying, not good. Bradley really says it like it is. You know, he's like, they're going to, and that was it.
The thing that was funny about that is Timothy Bradley is saying, they're going to screw him, they're going to screw him, they're going to screw him. And Andre Ward basically said, Tim, just wait till they make the decision.
Yeah, well, that's Andre.
Wait, let them figure it out. And then when they get it, then Andre Ward's like, you know, Bradley was right. They did screw him. Because I was thinking the same thing. They're looking at this, and there's no way possible that they're going to come to a definitive conclusion other than fight's over. He was getting the crap beat out of him. We stopped because of the injury, but it was caused by him getting punched in the face 700 times. So I don't know. And to tell you the truth, I would have thought at that point they were close to stopping it regardless of whatever because of the punishment he was taking. So if there hadn't been that sudden swelling and it looked ridiculous, if that hadn't happened, the fight wasn't going to last another 20, 30 seconds anyway, because Maloney was kicking his butt so hard. So interesting that, you know, the injury saved Franco, but Charles, I can't see any way it saves him this time. I mean, I'm glad they're having the fight. I'm glad for both of them. I think it gives, you know, an answer to what happened, but I don't see that Franco can come up with an answer to Maloney. Is it possible?
I think it's possible. I mean, fights are just different. Granted, Maloney should be prepared. Maloney should be set because he knew what he did this time. You guys talk about effort, and he knew what he did, what he thought he won the second fight. But fights are weird, man. You know, you expect one guy to come in, Maloney he should run over him because he know what it was like. They took the fight from him, say all those things. But if he's not mentally prepared, he's not prepared to come in there, he's not been training well. You know, Franco got there for a reason. So he's no bust or anything too. And Franco did beat him the first time. So to say that it's a guarantee, no, I wouldn't say that. I think it'll be a hell of a fight. We can say that Maloney has more, we would consider more incentive, right? Because he wants to right two wrongs in his mind, because it's like, I got an opportunity to do it. But the dumb thing about this is like when fighting, boxing, and football games, you never know until they get on the field or get in the ring. So great speculation, but we cannot guarantee that, because only on that night, when we know about the performances, that's how it's going to be dictated.
Well, now see, you just tore down the entire essence of what we do as sports talk analysts and podcasters, whatever. We talk about speculation, hot takes, and guys' wives in the stands. But anyway, so looking at the way, and you're right, because this is kind of, this is what I'm reading, hearing, and even talking about with the, whenever it happens, postponed Wilder Fury fight. Going off of the last fight, there is no way that Wilder has a chance. Going off of the first fight, well, so that's the question of when you get into the trilogy. Okay. Oh, here's the segue. All right, Mr. Author dude. Going into the third Gotti Ward Gotti fight, who should have been favored? How should it have worked out? Because we had a split up into that point. Now we know revisionist history of what we can say and what happened, but the speculation going into that fight, okay, Ward wins the first fight, correct? Gotti wins the second fight. This should be a hell of a fight, right? What happens and why?
Well, Gotti was the favorite because Gotti changed his style a little bit. He boxed more in the second fight. He said, that's what I got to do. I got to box more, and he outboxed Mickey Ward. Mickey Ward could be outboxed. So the conventional thinking was he was going to go into the third fight and do the same thing, and he did. But he also ran into some pitfalls, and he had some drama, and he lost his focus because that's the thing about Gotti. Gotti wanted to rumble. So every time you think, well, Gotti's got it, nope. He started getting punched. He get a little hurt. His instinct was not holding, not running. He wants to fire. So that's what made it all so great. And Gotti won again, but because he was the better, I think he was just the better fighter and the better boxer. You just don't know, because this is good, Frank, because it's a lot of it's up here, and you mentioned Wilder and Fury. I want to say one thing about this is, and it fits with Maloney too, because to be a boxer, you have to get yourself so primed up here. We know that. We don't know what it's like to, I remember asking Andre Ward, here I am again. He ought to pay me. I mentioned him so many times. But I asked him like a week before he fought Kessler, how hard is this when you're getting this close? He said, hard, really hard. It's like obsessive. So you have to be mentally ready. And they were real quick about Wilder and Fury. And I remember you asked Charles, well, who do you think would hurt if it was postponed? And it might benefit Wilder. See, I don't know, because Wilder might have been right there as far as he can be.
Ready to go, right
on point. He's been getting ready. He's mentally ready. He's got a plan with Malik Scott. And think about that. You're getting closer, 2 weeks away. And bam. Happened to Sonny Liston when he fought Ali the second time. They said he was looking great in sparring. He wanted his revenge. And Muhammad Ali had a hernia issue. Right. So the fight got postponed a number of months. And when he couldn't get himself back into that kind of mode again, that kind of thing. He's in shape, but here he was. So that's the thing. And then with Maloney, Maloney was so geared up for the second fight.
Yes.
He wanted his revenge. He was a Paisan. He was a Sicilian. I loved it. He's like, I'm going to show you I'm better than you. Well, here we are again. It's so many months later. He was showing that he beat him. He better be primed up again like that, because now it's Franco who wants to show that the first fight was not a fluke, and the second fight was. So you've got these mixed psychologies. I know. You got all this stuff going on. So that's what makes boxing so fascinating to me. And I agree with Charles. Yeah, Maloney is, but Franco could win, Frank. He could. He could definitely win. He's not called the professor for nothing. He's going to be studying the tape, seeing what Maloney did, and he might have a plan. He's got Robert Garcia in his corner. So, this is all over the place, I know, but that mental part about the game is fascinating to me, because there's a lot of people just see two guys fighting. No. A lot more going on there before the fight, and even after the fight. What makes boxing, again, so fascinating.
Well, Charles, this is something that old people, and I don't know any of them, but I know that they exist out there.
Stop staring at me.
That just not necessarily don't look at analytics, but don't quite understand analytics the way that the younger generation of people do. because we can prevent with analytics and Moneyball and this and that. And he's hitting 273 on grass against the shift and blah, 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 blah. Okay, that all makes sense. And it does, because you can see that. They're shooting blah, blah, blah in the third quarter from the foul line inside of 8 feet. Okay, all that is understandable. But something we forget, and even as an old coach, I try to refrain from doing this because it seemed to be like I wasn't coaching it, but you gotta want it more than they do, kid. Well, that's not coaching, that's just screaming. But there's a point to that, isn't there?
Well, no doubt. I mean, and that comes down to the psyche John's talking about from a mental standpoint. So you can talk about analytics all day, but there are no guarantees. You know, you can say, well, we should have won, but then it's the same reason why, I'm gonna date myself, why the 1977 Portland Trailblazers defeated the star-studded Philadelphia 76ers with Dr. J, World Be Free, Henry Bibby, all those guys like that. There's nobody had a chance in hell that thought Portland had a chance in hell to win that, but they did. And analytics will tell you differently. Same way here with this boxing standpoint, you have to understand that sometimes the one person comes in because they're feeling better that night. So we call it DAWG, dog. So you have to have that dog in you where you're feeling good. And not only are you going to go through the analytics, but you're going to go and you're going to execute your plan. So that's part of it, because you could be in a position and you can say, oh man, this is not working. But because you are a technician, you can change what wasn't working. Maybe it worked in the first fight, it didn't work in the second fight, but now he's doing something different. Now I need to alter what I'm doing, and I'm going to win the fight. Not because the analytics say I can't do it, right? They say I have no chance in hell, but you know, now I have opportunity to move forward and say, yeah, we can get this done. And you alter it and you make the change and you make it happen. So yeah, you're right. Sometimes it's inside you, because you're like, well, I was losing we're going 12-round fight. He was losing 10 of the 12 fights, and then 10 to 12 rounds. Then we get to round 11, and all of a sudden that energy comes, and you go, well, we didn't see that for 10 rounds. No, you didn't, but it was inside of you. Tell me, with that being said, where was the analytics?
Well, that's right.
You can't explain that. You cannot explain that. Well, I know my eye was over here and was sitting in the row 2 with next to that beautiful lady with the short haircut. But then it's like all of a sudden, burst of energy, instinct, what have you, comes along and they get it done. That's the part I have with analytics, because it's so caught up when this should happen because we say this and that, but you cannot put a number and you cannot equate drive. You can't. Drive and skills. You cannot. Those are two things analytics have nothing, no call on. You got, well, they should have won according to, yeah, they should have, could have, would have, but there are no guarantees. It's almost like you going to your broker trying to get advice about your stocks. He'll tell you these great things, what he thinks is going to happen, but he never says to you, I guarantee, AKA Charles Barkley, who's wrong all the damn time. Sorry, Charles.
I blame that on Cedric Sabalas. Anyway, or Danny H. Anyway, now the thing that I think is interesting about this, that we're of course my stockbroker doesn't return my calls anymore, but the idea of when you look at the great memories that we have, Miracle on Ice, Buster Douglas beating Mike Tyson, the Miracle Mets, the Amazing Mets, I'm sorry. These great memories that we have, isn't it almost always the underdog winning, the underdog disproving the analytics or disproving the pundits?
Can I throw one more in there?
Play listed, sure.
Marquez stopping Manny Pacquiao, yes sir.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of them that, I mean, we shoveled dirt on him after the first round. And then of the first fight. And then as we go along, it looks like Pacquiao is the better fighter in the next few fights. Marquez said, you know what? I don't think so. I don't think so. I like this. You know, I look at, you know, Barrera Morales, Barrera Morales. You know, it's that yin and yang. The only one I can think of, and I'm sure I can come up with more, is Borg beating McEnroe after that great force that tiebreaker, and then McEnroe or Borg ends up winning the match and won. Most of the time, it's the underdog is the one that we remember, and you know, so maybe that's it. You know, somebody beat a Klitschko. What, really? Oh, it's about damn time, Charles would say. So John was looking at and trying to keep it in the context of this one, but really not. Would it be better or surprising? Never mind. Just run with that idea. Forget it. Just run with that idea. I'm not going to try and keep you in a box.
Oh, I was just, when you were talking, I was thinking about the one that we're throwing examples out there. And this was really tied in, believe it or not. It's not on the script, Frank. So just bear with me here. Where it was here, and the guy was an underdog. And the thinking was, even though he was once the guy, he's over the hill. And the guy will destroy him. Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier 3.
Sure.
The thinking was that Ali, and that's why Ali came out. Oh, it was on your script, Charles? I didn't get the email. I don't know. The thinking was that Ali was going to knock out Joe Frazier, and I'll never forget that Ali, from what I read, even said that to Joe, like, he told me that you were through. And then Frazier said, he told you wrong, pretty boy. So we're talking about, and Frazier was so, this is the mental part. He was so tired of Ali's shenanigans. That was when he was doing, I'm going to get the gorilla and right and doing all that, which was hilarious then. Maybe it wouldn't be as funny now, but whatever. It was a different time. Whatever. We're not going to go into that. But he was sick of it. His kids were getting taunted. So you can understand as a man, and Frazier didn't think any of that was funny, even though Ali was saying, look, I'm just building up the gate. He was trying to let him know Frazier said, you cross that line, man. You cross that line. It's not amusing. I haven't been amused for 3 or 4 years now. Now you're really. So Frazier's like, I'm going to get myself in such good shape. I'm going to beat the crap out of that pretty boy. And Ali's like, I know I can beat this guy. You know, he's done. He's through. Everybody's telling him he's done. Well, what happens? Frazier is smoking. Ali tries to knock him out early, and then it becomes one of the, if not the greatest heavyweight title fight I've ever seen, where everything, guts, determination, heart, whatever you want to say, and Ali manages to win because he was Muhammad Ali. But there was a place where that's where the old saying is, don't motivate somebody. Keep your mouth shut. Right. You know, let them think whatever they want to think. Don't give them an out. But that was Ali's thing. This was Joe Frazier, and Joe Frazier was a great fighter. So he came up, he lifted his game up, and he almost pulled it off. I mean, he got very close to winning. So that's the one I always think that, and I know there's a lot more, but that was the one that I always, because I was so into it in those days that it was just Frazier. I mean, I ended up at one point in my life, I didn't like Joe Frazier because he beat Muhammad Ali the first time. And the third fight, I loved the man. I did. I loved him. I thought he was a great guy. He was a decent person. He's a great fighter. He's guts all over the place. I didn't like George Foreman, but I really like Smoking Joe. So that's the number one in my mind, I think.
Well, there are two things that I think of when we're talking about. Charles, we have the underdog story, the local boy makes good, or whatever you want to look at it, and then the redemption story as well. You know, I've been down and out. I was off my game. I've been shut off to the side, or I'm coming back from something or whatever. And we carried your shows we did, and that was Roberto Duran coming back from everything to beat Iran Barkley, who at that time the blade was just knocking people silly, and it was like, why is Duran still fighting? And we watched that. We covered that. I thought was pretty good. And the other one, I think, is the culmination of George Foreman retaining the belt over Michael Moore, or regaining the belt, I'm sorry, because that just shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have happened. So anything else in there that you look at and go, man, this is, and I think that's why we call them the fight of the year or the upsets or whatever. Anyone else you go, this just shouldn't have happened, and it did.
There's so many other ones out there, but I think the one that really surprised me, and because a lot of people had said this guy was done, and I just like the way he did it, was Pacquiao over Thurman. That was because you had Pacquiao was this guy, and Thurman was young and brash and running his mouth, and just took it for granted that he was going to put this older man out to pasture. And Pacquiao gave him a quick lesson where he put him down early, and then he was able to maintain enough to win the fight. And I think that you could see Thurman coming and after him, trying to get back, and he came very close. But that was just something that will last forever, because one time Thurman was a guy that swore he was on his way. And I think it derailed his career, because I don't think he loved boxing anymore the way he did. He can say, I don't know him, but he can say differently. But through his actions, and it just wasn't the same. Doesn't seem to appear to be that same. Like he ran in there he's running back to get in the ring. It seems like that loss was like, oh my God. I mean, I know he's great, but damn, I should have won that fight. I wasn't ready. He showed me something I wasn't expecting. And that's why when you hear that from Thurman, we've heard that before, that whole thing lets you know, which makes it one of the greatest upsets to me in boxing history, because it wasn't supposed to happen. Everybody knows that. You can say how great Pacquiao was, and he incurred a lot of losses, but he was going against a cold young lion. That wasn't supposed to be happening.
And looking at the lead up to that was the infamous, I'm not going to say famous, infamous Jeff Horn. So you struggle with Jeff Horn and you beat Jeff Horn, which doesn't really say much. No offense to Jeff Horn, but and then you're now supposed to be able to fight for one of the top welterweights in the last decade or so, and did so and got the job done. So yeah, that's very impressive. John
and Frank, real fast.
You got one, yeah.
I just that it was with that fight. I remember Freddie Rhodes saying, it just ties into what I was saying about Ali and Joe Frazier. I remember Freddie Rhodes saying that I've never seen Manny so motivated. I haven't seen Manny this motivated in years. Why? Because Thurman was talking so much. Mm-hmm. That's the thing about don't motivate these guys. Just shut up. But Thurman thought he was selling the fight, and you can't blame him, because he's a real bright kid and everything, and he was doing what he thought was right. But Pacquiao was getting under his skin, and it motivated him more, where he got himself as good a shape as he can. And then, of course, can he do it again against Errol Spence here next month? So amazing stuff.
A quote that I read, maybe I wrote, I'm not sure. Verbosity very rarely leads to victory. So I don't know, maybe I made that up anyway. But the idea, and while I'm at it, this episode's sponsored by AARP. But the idea of
thank you, Frank.
If you've gone, and he's fallen off the chair. If you've gone,
here's my magazine.
I'll get my cane so I can get up here. But if you are out of the realm of who we think you were, or you were never that guy. And again, this is the Buster Douglas thing, and all of Columbus, Ohio, thank you. All of Columbus, Ohio should cane me after I say this. Even in Columbus, Ohio, most of us didn't realize the Buster Tyson fight was going on when it happened. It was in Japan, and I was living in Columbus, and was that tonight? As it came on the TV. Because, the last time Buster had a chance, he didn't close the door, right or wrong, good or bad. So this isn't going to happen. But when you're properly motivated, I don't know if properly is the right way for that situation, but when you're over motivated, I guess, and the other guy isn't on the top of his game, things can happen. So, John, I'm interested to hear with you, because Charles came up with a perfect one for Pacquiao beating Thurman. What's one that just jumped out at you and went, this shouldn't have happened, but now that it happened, I see why it happened?
I remember when Holyfield fought Mike Tyson, and the thinking was the same. Holyfield was done. Tyson was going to blast him out of there in 2 or 3 rounds. But the same kind of deal where Holyfield, and he always was motivated. I mean, he was a consummate pro, but he was even more motivated because he said, look, I used to spar this guy when we were amateurs, and I would beat him up then. So I knew I could beat this guy. I could beat him. Everyone's like, you're done, Evander. You can't beat Mike Tyson. And see, I never considered Evander Holyfield a great fighter. I'd say he's a very good fighter. But what he has great is a heart and determination. He's above most everybody when it comes to that. So I was watching that fight, literally going, wow, he's really doing it, because he did everything to Tyson. He headbutted him. People don't like that. He pushed him around. He bullied him. He knocked him down. He did everything possible. Because he's a dirty guy. He's a dirty fighter. He bit somebody as an amateur. Sorry, Evander. It's true. But don't act like you're some pristine guy here. You know, it's just not reality. So that one was one. Okay, I'm done here for the second break. That was one that blew my mind.
Physical.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, physical, fine. And then, of course, Ali again beating Foreman was also a major mind blower. Most people thought Ali was going to get killed in about 2 rounds, just like Liston. And then an old one popped into my head, Frank, and I remember I didn't barely even want to watch it because I was like, this is a given. Donald Curry is not going to lose to Lloyd Hunnigan. Oh. So that's what makes it so great about sports is things happen. Even I remember, what was it, 1988, when that was the year Oakland A's beat the Dodgers. The Dodgers were such a great team. No, the A's were a great team. They had Canseco, they had McGuire, they had Dennis Eckersley, and what happens? The Dodgers, who had basically nobody, Kirk Gibson, but he was hurt. They beat him 4 out of 5. So that's what makes sports so phenomenal. I love it.
Yeah, and for some reason I could beat Mike Tyson. Wasn't that a Fresh Prince song? Anyway. But the idea of there it is. You know, if you believe in yourself, now you can believe in yourself and still get your ass kicked. You know, that there's always that.
For sure.
But I think you don't kick ass unless you believe that you can get the job done. And part of what we're seeing, I think, coming back now is that people are, I want to say, more motivated than they may have been when they were making a living at boxing, because they haven't made a living at boxing in the last year or so. So that motivation is, I have to make sure that I stay on. And correct me if I'm wrong, Charles, have you seen anybody that's come out in the last 6 to 8 months that's fought that wasn't ready to fight? I mean, maybe not physically, but mentally they were into it. From the bubble to now, have you seen, other than, I'm going to say this, and go ahead, no, I won't say, I'll let you say it. Excuse me, that has been underwhelmed by the situation, by the moment?
I mean, there's a couple guys that come out and say, you know, whatever. But I think, and I'm gonna let you say it, but I think that for the majority of the people, they wanna come out because they know what is at risk, right? So,
Right.
you know, during the bubble, if you lost, it was like, oh wow, okay, he had a setback, but now the money's coming back in. So the money, the crowds, TV, this is how you make your money. So with all that being said, you kind of go, yeah. I mean, that's just why I think, truth be told, that they were kind of very selectively choosing who Anthony Joshua fought.
Right.
Very, very carefully. And why they kind of go, well, you don't need to fight, not just yet. And it's like, and you ask yourself, when's your last fight, Joshua? What was your last fight? When
1852, it seems
but
like, yeah.
But when you think about it, it's like, okay, now we're going to take a chance because what's coming back? The money. He cannot afford another loss. Everybody knows that. Right. So they may never admit it, but when you look at it, when you pull the curtain back and you get to see the workings, you kind of go, well, how come you haven't fought yet? You know, and it's like any slip ups means the so-called major fight Bill he had with Fury is gone.
Yep.
You know, it goes straight down and you got to work your way back up. So whoever's working with him over there, Hearn and some other folks, they know exactly what they're doing. So I would definitely say there, because you can't afford to have Joshua slip. They don't know what guy's going to show up. And if they were confident about it, they would say the same thing. I think the same thing could be said too about, and I know they're not gonna like it, but I'm gonna get in trouble, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I think the same thing can be said about Wilder. It's like, we're gonna wait until we get exactly what we want. And we think through the courts we can get it. We're not sure, but we're gonna wait. There's no chance, no reason of jumping out here to take a chance against somebody that is not gonna help us, as you mentioned so many times before, Frank. But I think that being said, but they had to wait and wait and wait because they wanted to make sure too that was going on. That's why I think John's point is spot on. I didn't think about it early on because they never told us. But I'm not saying I changed my mind about who the time would benefit more. But when you think about it now, I think Wilder, as John said before or referred to, has been training the whole time. I believe that now. First, I didn't think so, but now it's like you can see where he was in, we saw maybe a video and a half.
Right.
He's been training the whole freaking time. I believe that now. First, I was like, if he's not training, it's too quick. But if you had not been training, there's no way in heck he was taking the fight in July if he had not been training. That's just me.
And he's been training all along for that person.
Yes.
He hasn't been training just to be training. He's been training for that fight, I think. Well, other than adding another problem to the conversation, John, who do you think has been, or has there been anyone that's come out of the bubble or whatever that just went, whatever, other than any problems that might arise from that? And hopefully that says what I'm trying to say.
Well, I was going to mention Joshua too, because, he's another whipping boy because I think what's going on with him is he is so protected. Now, he is going to fight Usyk. And that's huge because that sets up the Fury fight. He better win, and then Fury better win. But actually, I do wonder about Tyson Fury. Is he come out of this like, you just don't know about him. I mean, he gets bored easy. He's an amusing guy, talks a lot, but maybe he didn't mind getting COVID. I heard he got one shot, he didn't get two, and then, it happened. Okay, he's not 100%, but still, maybe he didn't mind this delay. Maybe his team didn't mind. Again, these are just maybes. But I got the feeling watching him that the whole thing was a big joke to him, and he just wasn't. He wasn't all there. But that's Tyson Fury. You never know. I mean, I'll never forget the time he showed up at a press conference. I think it was against Klitschko, dressed up as Batman. Which just killed me. I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. He actually won me over then. I didn't like him until then. And I thought, this guy is just a goofball. But I don't know. Fury is one, but I think most of them are pretty primed, Frank. I think talking about motivated and wanting some kind of revenge or redemption, Lomachenko is in that group. I think he showed that in his last fight. I think he wants Teofimo bad, and he wants to show that he can beat Teofimo. But I think your point is right on, though, Frank. I think they know that this is a chance to make a lot of money, and they want to do it. Now, the other guy that pops in my brain too is Warrington. Warrington is supposed to be fighting the Mexican who knocked his block off. And he was kind of debating what to do, and he was kind of, then suddenly he's all pumped up. I want this guy to rematch because he knows he has to win. So things have changed since things have loosened, but it's totally different in England. They still have a lot more restrictions in England. But this whole thing, if 3 years ago, if we'd been doing a show and you had said, with your wisdom, I'm going to tell you guys in 2 years that there's going to be a major pandemic in the world and everything is going to be shut down for 15 months. There's going to be really no boxing, and then it's going to come back in a bubble. And Charles and I would have said to you, Frank, that's some pretty strong stuff you're drinking over there, smoking there, Frank. But so predicting and seeing what's going on and seeing how each person responds, I've been pretty impressed. I think a lot of them are re-jazzed or remote. Oh, there it is. See, that's how Charles keeps so cool. A lot of them are really ready to go. A good cigar, Charles. I haven't had a cigar in years, but I'm ready for one. So I think that's the number of guys are prime now, Frank. I do. I think so. I think they know that now they got to get serious with their careers and really go for it, because this is their chance, and that includes the Charlos and if they ever get to fight anybody. Golovkin, I got to throw this in one real quick. Golovkin is still AWOL. I put out some seekers who'll find him. He still can't be found, so I don't know where Golovkin is.
Well, again, we go back to what we did actually last year when the Cinderella song, "You don't know what you got until it's gone." Well, you don't know, and when it goes away and you didn't mean for it to go away, I want to get it back. And I think when Charles mentioned Pacquiao over Thurman, it's like, I still want this. I want the adoration. I want the adulation. I want this. I want to be that guy again. And because maybe I didn't take Jeff Horn seriously, or maybe Jeff Horn just had a really good day, I'm no longer in that conversation. And he got robbed the same way.
He got robbed.
He did.
I understand that.
He used elbows. He got robbed.
But he did everything to Pacquiao except, he did it. He did everything imaginable to him. They didn't do anything in Australia. They just let it go.
Okay, but it was like a single A team beating a triple A team. No matter how many runs you give them, you're still supposed to win that game.
True.
So maybe that's what he's thinking. Maybe in his mind, he's like, I don't care how much he cheated or whatever, I still should have won that rather easily. I'm still won the fight, and I did. So I should have done something about it.
Oh, Frank, can I throw something in real quick?
Okay, go ahead.
It's really fast. Seeing Spence, you're making me think with Jeff Horn being bigger and everything, right? And he used his physicality to throw the very small, but powerful Pacquiao around. Seeing Errol Spence and Pacquiao standing, I just don't know how that senator from the Philippines is going to get through that brick wall of Errol Spence. I just don't know how he's going to do it. Now, I will say right away, I thought that Thurman was going to beat him. But Errol Spence is a different animal than Thurman, and he's a beast. Unless he's still recovering from that horrific accident, but he's just so much bigger physically and stronger. And I don't know how he does it. I admire him for trying. It's amazing.
But didn't we have that same visual against was it Mayorga?
We thought he beat Mayorga.
I just lost my.
No. What's his name? Margarito.
Margarito. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Margarito. It's not that we didn't think he would win the fight, but because he dominating physically like he did. That was the thing that blew me away. Yeah, that blew me away. He just because you thought, well, he's going to stand, move, dodge, pot shot, and hope he gets lucky and tire him out. When Margarito's going, he dominated him physically.
True.
So if he did that to that guy, granted that was in his quote unquote prime, which I don't know if we even know what his prime is right now. But if he did that to that guy, maybe he can do it to this guy. I don't know. There are certain people. Yeah, I know. But okay, we've got another before we close the show. While you're on, great commentary by the way. While we're doing whom should we never count out, or has been proven we should never count out? I think that we've said don't ever count out Ali until it was too late. But even he came back and got. I mean, did anyone think he was going to beat Larry Holmes?
No,
I did.
It's sad.
I thought he'd find a way.
You did? Yes.
I thought he'd find a way.
no.
I thought he'd find a way. It was Ali.
No.
Yeah, I know, but
no.
So that's the thing. There's certain people you go, no matter what happens, they're going to defy Father Time. They're going to find this. They're going to find that. And then when it doesn't happen, like, I didn't think that we'd see Roy Jones Jr. lose. What's it? His last 12 fights, or whatever the hell it's been.
Yeah.
get knocked out.
And now I know it now, but there was a point there where did you think he was going to beat Kawasaki?
No.
I did.
I mean, I was
I did.
hopeful.
I thought,
did.
yeah.
But I mean, there comes a time. Let's be real. If you've been watching boxing long enough, you can tell when your guy he can't turn it on like he did, and that doesn't take a lot of rounds. You like when you saw Bernard Hopkins got knocked out of the ring. Everybody thought he was going to come back.
Right.
You can just tell that when the skills
He's
diminish,
done. Right.
He's done. I mean, Ali with Holmes. I tell you, I don't think I even watched that fight. I think I heard about it. I was so described to this day. I've not watched it because
I haven't watched it.
I knew what the hell was going to happen because you just knew the man was done, and you just really did a disservice because you really you hurt him along the way. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I think after a while you can see the skills diminishing, and when they face adversities, when I look at it, and they can't fire back and return what they normally do, I think that's when you go say to yourself, he just don't have it anymore. He doesn't.
And isn't that what we thought of Pacquiao after Horn?
I mean, I would give you that, yeah. But now, Errol Spence is a different monster. Margarita was a tough dude. Margarita on his best day would never ever had the skill set of Errol Spence.
Very limited.
I agree.
And I'm just saying, the one thing that even when Pacquiao was in his prime that caused him problems is the main thing Spence can do. He can box, he can move, and he can come in and bang with him. And when you're a smaller, shorter guy, like Pacquiao in his prime was really busy and would take different angles and hit guys that he's really great at. When you have a taller fighter, and Thurman, for as much as they want to give him credit to be a boxer, he has no way he had the skill set, the boxing ability that Spence has. And that's why he got caught, because Spence has that ability, and he showed you this, and get off there real quick, when he fought Porter. I can bang with you, but now I'm going to give you a little something to remember me about. Bam! All of a sudden. Mm-hmm. And that ability is limited. A lot of people don't have it. So that's why I think even Pacquiao in his prime would have a major problem with Spence. And now everybody's throwing the fact that Spence is flat-footed. But he's a now you see me, now you don't type of thing. You think Pacquiao is going to be a ghost. Wait until you get in there with Spence, and then it's just different because Pacquiao's older too. I think Pacquiao. Yeah, I think Pacquiao just said, "Look, I'm gonna go out on my sword. I'm gonna make as much damn money as I can. If I'm gonna take an L when I go out, I'm gonna get paid. I'm gonna let everybody see me, and I'm gonna go against one of the best fighters today, and I'm gonna walk away. And he gonna fall on the sword one way or the other. If he loses, nobody's gonna say nothing. They're gonna go, oh damn. Well, at least you went further than we ever thought you would, Pacquiao. But you lose. Why not lose to a great champion and fall on your sword and go back and become president of your country? That's why you do it. That's the legacy. You want a legacy? Imagine that's what happens. He goes in there, he bangs with Pacquiao. Pacquiao bangs with him, and then he just gets knocked the hell out. And then he goes, hey, what you think, everyone? He gives his swan song, and you clap for him because you love him. And he laid it out, left it all in the ring, baby.
Well, I think that we don't want to see, and I'm going to cross sports here. We don't want to see the last time we saw Roger Federer getting bageled at Wimbledon. That's not the last time we want to see him. We want to see him going out, like you said, going out in style, competing. And I think that Pacquiao will compete in this fight. And I don't know how we got to that, but that's where we are. But I agree with you. I would think that it's not a fight that he should win, but I like to think it's a possibility. I don't think that he will, but it's a possibility. So that we still have a few more weeks of speculation for that. So I think we're in good shape. I think that we can see where that's going to go, but we also opened up a can of worms on a couple other things, which is what we love to do. So, John, give us some last thoughts, and then Charles, and then we'll get the heck out of Dodge.
Well, I'm really looking forward to this fight. talking about the entire show here. I like how we can get inside the minds, at least speculate about that. And then actually, Frank, even though you didn't say that word that you like, that you almost used as much as the man below me says, crafty, that segue into the whole Pacquiao mentality and all that. I mean, I think he thinks he can win. I have to say this. Of course he does. I also think he thinks he can win now, where a couple of years ago he was going to fight Spence pre-automobile accident, and he went there and they were going to fight, and then suddenly he ghosted. I think he thinks I got a better chance now, even though I'm 2 years older, because this isn't the same guy that was fighting 2 years ago.
Right.
Especially after the Danny Garcia fight, he looked like the same guy, but then there was something different about him. So there's a little bit of that going on here. And then talk about a legacy. What happens if he beats Errol Spence? I mean, that is incredible. So he's rolling the dice, and Pacquiao is that kind of a guy. You know, when he was younger, he was a big-time gambler. I'm sure you guys know this. He gambled on the cockfights like crazy. National sport in the Philippines. So it makes sense that he's doing it, but I just find it very interesting. It's kind of calculated. But I liked how we got into the mentality, because people just think that these are a lot of people think, okay, not a lot, it's not fair. Some people think that these are just two guys getting in there throwing punches at each other. No. There's a lot going on. Like I said, there's a lot going on up here. The Maloney-Franco thing is fascinating, Frank. How where they are mentally going into their third fight. Wilder, if I was Wilder, I would be bummed right now. Back if I'm him, I'm like, man, what am I going to do now? We don't even have a date. So I would be massively bummed. So that's the whole part of boxing that doesn't get discussed enough, and I'm glad we did it today.
Mr. Farmer.
Yes, sir. I think what we're seeing now too, you look at the Castano versus Charlo coming up this weekend, along with some other fights. When we ever get Wilder and Fury, that the light is on again in the building, and people are starting to say, okay, now there's no more room for excuses. You mentioned, John, you attended the was it Fortuna and Jojo Diaz fight. So now Jojo Diaz, everybody wondering whether or not Jojo Diaz could step up at 135 and handle the power. Would his power transform with him? Would he fight bigger guys? Would he be able to handle it? Because you've been fighting at 126, 130, right? You've been the champion. You took the L against Gary Russell Jr. at a lower weight. Now you're moving up. Can you handle it? And he says, I can handle it at 135. So if he's able to handle it, then now it's like, okay, Jojo, really? Let's see what you got. So with that alone, thinking that he was the guy to replace Ryan Garcia with Fortuna because of the mental problems, right? Think about that standpoint, that opens another door. So now we got Gervonta Davis, we got Teofimo Lopez, we got Haney, we got Lomachenko. So a standpoint of these are fights that are there for you. So like so many others in that 135, 140 range, it's time to remove the excuses and quit talking and start fighting, because the money's out there, opportunities out there, people want to see it. Now what? Who wants it? Who's ready?
And if you get a fight, you can't duck a fight. There's no way that you're going to get a soft touch, I don't believe, in that weight class. So I think that if you're going to get something, you're going to have to prove something. So,
yep,
for
sure.
Thanks again, folks. It's been a lot of fun. We will hit you again next week. And good fight. Good night.